once again, we are back. I call this the tripod group here. We're celebrating another year of wrestling cards, the hobby, and friendship. And once again, holidays here. Got Paul, got Chuckster, got WTC me. How you guys doing, man? How's it going this year?
Happy holidays. Can you believe how fast time flies? Like, this is my favorite episode of the year. Of all the stuff we do, I always enjoy this because it's Christmas time and we get to talk about the stuff that happened and our favorite this, favorite that, and it's just the three of us. And it's like, man, it just seems like we did this one like a week ago.
I know these things they blur. Like I remember the first one we did, coming right out of like, didn't even know we're going to be doing these at all. To be honest with you, we just Porto and I did one just to see what the hell happens and killing some time. And here we are. I think the channel has over 200 episodes now.
5 years?
Wow.
4 or 5
Yeah,
years?
yeah. I
It was
mean,
2020. I remember when I came on with you because it was the day after
yeah,
my birthday, 2020. And
yep,
right after that, I joined Twitter. Right.
yep. Yeah, so it's been an adventure, man. But I know we don't do these as much as we used to, but for one, we're always going to make sure we do a holiday one. That's for sure.
And I've been in action most of the year. Do you realize this is only the second video that I've done with you guys all year long? The only other one out at the National. This is it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I've been
The
Wow.
national one that we did together, that didn't even air, did it?
no.
No. The powers that be determined.
Yeah, the powers that be determined. It ended up being a downer. It was super negative. I mean, there's whatever. It just
Anyway. And,
it doesn't matter.
it's going to be when we recap the year, we can maybe fill that in a little bit.
Sure.
Experiences the three of us at the
Well,
national.
this is gonna be a pretty short episode. We're not gonna go,
No, not too
a
much.
long time, but
So long as you're around and Tony's around and I'm around and I don't care about the wrestling card business, we're doing this every year because this is the time that the three of us get to hang out for an hour
yeah,
or two, and just chat and see each other before the holidays. I mean, we speak and text each other all the time, but this is as close as the three of us get to hanging out unless we go to the national together. So.
true, very true. So where do you want to get started on this one, Paul?
Well, let's just follow the formats we've done other years. Top sort of stories of the year, our favorite wide releases, our favorite indie releases, our favorite wrestler, which is always interesting because last year Chuck and I had the exact same picks and we didn't discuss it in advance. What I'll do is I'll just bang off quickly the sets of the year because obviously we're in the wrestling card business. So, when you look at the year in review, the big things, of course, are Panini, and then we'll talk about Panini and Tops. That's going to be one of our big news items. Upper Deck, and of course the indie stuff. Very quickly, Panini released quite a few sets this year, particularly
Yep.
the last like 2 months. They released Elite, Impeccable, Prism, Select, Photogenic, 3 Count, National Treasures, and Flawless is about to come out. And
Hmm.
the last four that I mentioned probably came out in like the last 90 days or something like that.
Yeah. Well, they're cranking them out, man. The license is over
Yeah,
for them, and they're
you know
gonna.
why? We know why. I mean, there's
Yeah,
there's a lot of product on the market, and it's just because they had to get them out, and they're a for-profit company, so I understand completely that they're going to make as much as they can, and then that's it. And then we'll talk about that in a little bit about our new stories of the year. Flip side of that was Upper Deck, that wasn't near as prolific. They had only two releases this year, which was the flagship 2024, and then the that Elite set, that Black Diamond, which is kind of like a transcendent, impeccable kind of thing where everything's high end. And then
yeah.
I didn't list all the indie stuff because there's a boatload of them. We try and stay current on the sites. Chuck is the man for both sites to make sure Tony and I get the information that we need. He usually liaises with Armand and with Nick and of course Michael Neubauer and all the Indie Brotherhood. But despite us being on the case, there's still indie stuff that slips. So I won't mention them all, but we'll talk about some of our favorites a little bit later going on. And then there was a Leaf set, and the only reason why I mentioned that is we did with Dwayne Johnson's signatures. That was pretty significant that we had
Yep.
him signing after so long. So, anyways,
Yeah, that kind of, that fizzled pretty quickly afterwards, by the way, because no one really talks about that.
yeah, I want to mention it though because remember, WTC is wrestling content for the entire community. So
Correct.
we're going to cover Panini, we're going to cover AEW, we're going to cover Indie, and we're going to cover everything.
Yep.
Whether I like something or not, or you like something or not, it doesn't matter. We're here to
Well,
report.
my point on that was that it was the talk of the town before it came out. As it got released, I don't recall any big conversations about that in the several weeks following its release. It just kind of fizzled and went away.
Even the high-end prices on the rock started to erode after a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think once all cards got released, everybody just said, "Oh, okay, they're all out now. Let's stop buying it. Let's go. Let's move on to something else." And again, I'm not sure if other people felt this way, but I think I brought this up last year when we were talking about it being released. I just wasn't real thrilled with the fact of them releasing a card with a picture of The Rock and having him sign Dwayne Johnson. I wanted something with The Rock signature on it, or Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Something to his autograph should match what his persona was, not his real name.
But I understand the reason why they don't do that. They don't have the legal rights to do that. That's why.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, I would have been happier if I had like a Dwayne Johnson candid red carpet type photo on the card and signed Dwayne Johnson
as himself, as the actor.
The second you start using The Rock, though, that's a legal problem.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's still coming, you know, with the top sets and The Rock himself. And, you know, maybe we will get Rock signature.
And that's the conversation, you know, behind the scenes that's being talked about right now. That's a big pursuit by Topps right now is to lock that in, is to get The Rock to sign, because that's pretty much all we're really kind of waiting for. I think there's nothing else out there I can think of that, unless you guys can think of something from a WWE standpoint that would like, wow, I got to get this released now because such and such is finally signing. Yeah, finally.
Anyways, guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention some of the biggest stories of the year, and then we'll chat about them and give your thoughts on each. And what I did was, rather than doing the top 10, I sort of identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that happened, you know, that were pretty significant in our hobby, and we'll go around the horn and talk about them. And the 5 things I mentioned was what we just alluded to, that Topps is taking over in 2025. So as such, it was quite a crazy year with the Panini product, you know, and you know, this isn't an indictment on the quality of the product, because I loved it, you know, but there was a lot of it, and they just had to sort of get everything done under the wire. Obviously, one of the other big stories was the Hulk Hogan sale a few weeks ago. That set a new record in our hobby for $132,000. Because
of that sale too, I mean, let's just touch on that for a second. Because of that sale, have you been seeing, because I know you're always scouring you know, pricing and stuff like that, obviously. Have you seen, you know, other prices rising like that? I mean, I saw you post 87 Topps. I mean, that sold for $5,000, which is incredible for an 87 Topps.
Wax boxes, anything Hogan is hot now.
Right? Yeah. I mean, even I put my my Italian one up there. My PSA 10.
Any luck yet?
No, it's got a lot of views and a lot of watchers.
Right. So that was a big deal just a couple of weeks ago. We'll talk about the National. The 3 of us got to hang out again in Cleveland. They've had some ups and downs there. I also mentioned that the WWE itself had a record-breaking announcement in the Netflix deal. Like, if you look at wrestling now, it's on an ultimate high. You know, they're doing crazy business all around the world. So that's obviously very significant this year. And then I also mentioned the Vince McMahon scandal, which is kind of a secondary thing, but it dominated sort of the wrestling headlines for the first quarter of this year.
It does. And it has a trickle effect too when it comes to collectibles, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's talk about some of those things, Chuck. What would you say was the most significant event of the year in the card world?
Well, obviously, I mean, there can be no doubt it was the Hulk Hogan sale. That card, you know me at grading, I'm just not a grading person, but to see numbers like that, that's the first time in all the years I've been collecting and been with the Brotherhood that I actually set up and watched that heritage auction way into the night. I think I was even texting back and forth with you part of the night. It just boggled my mind to think that a little card that most of us, unfortunately not me, picked up for next to nothing when we were beginning our collecting, has now risen to the status of a Jordan or a Mantle card. You know, it's there. And sorry, I don't have one of those in my collection, but it was just so fascinating to watch those bids go up and up and up, and then it went into overtime bids. And when it ended up at 132,000, I was just shaking my head. I mean, I had a hard time getting to sleep that night, because it's like, and it's like, oh, am I going to wake up in the morning and then somebody else put it in a last minute overbid, or, you know? And so yeah, I think that was probably the most significant, and I think it brought a lot of eyes to the sport, to the hobby, and the collecting, because I even saw it mentioned on national TV. I mean, you know, it wasn't just a wrestling hobby related thing. It made national news, and that's pretty impressive.
As well as it should have.
What do you
as
say,
well.
Tony?
All those things that Chuck just said, I agree. Uh, and I don't care about the grading aspect of it. I think the grading aspect of it obviously plays into it from a price value, but I don't care about the grading aspect of it. I just care that it's a wrestling card and that it brought more eyeballs, again, more eyeballs to the hobby. And the more eyeballs that become part of our hobby, the more we become like the other sports. And there's a
Exactly.
lot of distension and there's a lot of, some negativity going on in those things because they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Divides happen and this versus that kind of thing. And that's happened for us since the Panini license took over.
Sure.
Because when the Panini license took over, that that just opened more eyeballs. People who don't collect or buy or sell wrestling cards got into our hobby. I say our hobbies, not ours, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They got into the hobby because they saw that there's a profit to be made, that it was an undervalued market, and they got into it. And you know what? More eyeballs, and the more and more eyeballs, I think it's a good thing for us. I don't care if there's some issues here and there's like that. Overall, it brings more value to everything that we collect. And again, not to take Roman Reigns' thing, but acknowledge us,
Yeah.
and we're acknowledged. And I like that. I like seeing this card. And I do take, I'll say, like we did the episode with David Peck. I do take some, so I'll pat myself on the back for this one, that we all thought that everybody thought this was not going to happen again. No six-figure car was going to sell again unless a PSA 10 Hogan showed up somewhere. And I'm like, I disagree. It just takes someone with deep pockets to go out there and make a play for it. And apparently a couple of guys decided to do that with this card, and it should be. I think it's going to happen again in less time than everybody thinks.
What I like about it specifically, that it was the right card. Like in baseball, you have your mantle. There's got to be that grail card, that ultimate card in the hobby. And we denoted that as the most iconic card a couple of years ago. But for me, it's like the right card is now on top. All due respect to the one-off Panini Black, but the Hogan has had, you know, Bill has been growing organically over like the last 10 years. And we've seen it go from a $400 card to a $4,000 card to a $50,000 card and float around there. So it makes sense to me, if one card is going to be the card, it should be that one. So I'm glad that when the record finally got broke, that's the card. Not to say it's going to hold on to that position forever, but I think it might. I think that the Hogan Wrestling All-Stars is going to be the most valuable card in the wrestling card hobby for quite some time to come.
And you're probably right. I disagree with you in that it's the right card to be that way. I don't think there is a right card. But this is obviously going to be the iconic cards like that.
Well, when you look
I
at
don't care what card ends up being a high cards like that.
when
I
you
mean,
look at our
but
list, when I mean right card, I mean like what should be there based on the energy that it has. And if you look at our top 10,
it's
that
always
card,
a Hogan card in there.
yeah, that, and never mind our monthlies that we've done. If you look at the top 10 of all time, right? There's a bunch in there. So it
Yep.
only makes sense to me that, like a manufactured scarcity, one of one that was predetermined that a Black Prism first is going to be the most expensive card of all time, right? Great that it was, but I'm glad that it's gone back to a card that has grown organically over time within the hobby. And I'll say this, like when the Panini Rock sale happened a year ago, there was some detractors right away because it was a PWCC auction and they didn't believe it was real, didn't believe it was
Yeah.
before, and there was a lot of buzz, 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 buzz. This time around, we didn't get that. Okay, maybe one guy, but other than
Yeah.
that, everybody accepted it and understood that, yeah, of course that this is going to be the card. So, anyways, I would pick that as a top story as well. I mean, obviously Panini losing the license and it going to tops. But any year that you have a record year, and I'm going to be doing the top 10 sales of the year next week, and you break a record is fantastic, like you say, for the hobby. It's all tides lift boats, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. That's going to be my top one for the year as well. The Panini one, well, it's a big deal. It's like that. We knew that back in 2020.
Yeah,
2021.
we almost knew. Now, what if that was? Here's a question for you guys. We don't really discuss that. What if a Hogan came out in 2020, 2022 instead of The Rock? Would that have been the card?
What if a Hogan card?
If we had a black Hogan Prism?
I don't think so, because I think The Rock would have, because The Rock was starting to become more relevant on TV with the Bloodline storyline right now. Hogan had kind of faded to the background. And
I don't even think Hogan, I don't think Rock that wasn't even a bloodline related thing at all back then. I really don't think he was. I think
Yeah, that
I
was
just
early in that.
I think it was basically for him is we're talking still, top of the movie career, it's like that. There was his TV show was going on still. So I mean he was super relevant at the time. And I agree, Chuckster. I think, Hogan fell to the back,
Mhm.
but Hogan's Hogan, man. It's just, I mean,
That's it.
whether you like him or not, it's still Hogan. I mean,
That's what I liked when I started watching wrestling back in the early '80s. I mean,
He
that's
I
has
mean,
transcended wrestling.
got my
I myself was never a Hogan fan. I mean, but that doesn't matter to me. But he just transcends, the sport itself. He's a household name. I think there's only two probable names you can probably go to 100 homes and people would probably say they know that name. It's going to be Hogan and Rock. That's it.
Exactly. I lived
and
through the Hogan era.
name. There's the
Same.
Hulkster and there's the Chuckster. Which one's on top?
Chuckster for me, baby. It's always a Chuckster.
When we used to go back in the 80s
I'm
to
a
the
way bigger Chuckster fan than I am a Hogan fan.
during the Hulkamania run, I went a lot, because I was at that age of partying and having fun. And Hogan wasn't my favorite wrestler either. I was like, but as the years passed, I began to appreciate that, oh man, never seen this. Like what Hogan did, the excitement that he brought, the amount of energy that he brought into buildings, like
Yeah.
it was just, phenomenal. And of course, there's been a lot of controversy later with his personal life and this and that, but I separate the two. I look at Hogan in his prime, and that's the one of the finest runs in wrestling, in my opinion.
Well, we all know your favorite one was Iron Mike Sharp, but that's besides the point.
Canada's greatest athlete.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Hogan definitely the sale. I think is the top. I think to me is the top headline of the year. Panini to lose license, probably the bottom of the list for me because we all knew it was coming.
It was coming.
The National was always great for the panel and trade night was great. I love that. Location wise, we've discussed it before. Cleveland probably not the best place ever, but I think we had our most successful night ever from our trade night. And hats off to everybody involved who put that together. It's like that. We had a lot of people show up there. We had so many people show up.
But we were put into that grand room where everything was. So it was
Yep.
just a flood of people everywhere. And
Yep.
people were in. So, versus the year previous where it was a dedicated thing for us just in one room, this was like the entire everybody that was coming to the trade night for everything or for those.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, hang out with you guys, of course, is always the biggest thing for me to go anyways. So that was good too. I mean, I put that probably, second on the list here, I would think, because Panini again's
Well,
probably the bottom of the list for me.
for me, if you guys recall, it was that Friday morning that we hopped in the car, truck drove us to the waterfront, and
Yep.
we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And right in the middle of when we were walking through the Hall of Fame, I did a deal. So
Yep.
I remember that.
you remember when I went off on the phone and I was sort of trying to, don't mind me, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst possible time, but sometimes the best possible times. You know what I mean? You never know
Yep.
when the phone's going to ring. So,
Well,
and then we went to the house afterwards for the Christmas story, which, by the way, Chuck, we've got recorded because I said to Susan, I said, if you see a Christmas story, PVR it because I want to watch it again.
Oh,
Oh, maybe even this weekend.
it's on 24 hours a day starting Christmas Eve. And we'll be on for 24 hours straight. And I'll be watching probably at least 20 of it anyway. But
Yeah, and then for me also, go ahead, Patrick.
no, go ahead, Tony. You're next.
Those are the only three things car related for me. I think the other one's for the record breaking year for WWE Netflix and the Vince McMahon thing. That has a trickle down effect as for the hobbies as a whole, I think. I mean, I know here at the store, I don't have a lot of history here at the store to compare, like how's that affecting my sales for action figures and t-shirts and like that. Sales are obviously decent here. I'm still around, still open. And the Vince McMahon scandal as well. I don't think it's hurt anything when it comes to the hobby for him at all. There's just certain guys in the hobby itself, Hogan, Flair, Vince. These guys are, they're bulletproof almost in a sense. They can, short of murdering somebody, I guess that's not even true either. They can, it doesn't hurt their values. And I don't know. Paul would know better, I guess, here. I mean, did we see a dip in Vince McMahon autograph cards? Stayed the same, go up?
No, a couple of guys dumped early because they personally probably didn't like the fact that they were holding something of the guy that didn't appreciate anymore.
Sure.
But I kept mine, and it's worth more. The sales have gone up. I mean, and you have to remember that these cards are finite. There's only so many Vinces and so many Hogans.
Correct.
It's not like
Well, the Hogans I disagree with because the Hogans are plentiful. The Vince is way,
way
way
less,
less,
but
way
there's
less.
there's not a ton of those top Hogans kicking around. You know what I mean?
No, but there's plenty of that Hogan card kicking around.
Of what?
Period. Any
Of,
Hogan cards. This
yeah, of
idea
course,
that people talk about, like, I'm going to get as many cards as I possibly can signed by Hogan. Do you have any effing idea how many cards out there that Hogan has signed? It's probably more rare for cards that he hasn't signed.
Yeah, but that's what people want. People are opening boxes now, paying $2,000 for 85 boxes
Understood.
just to
Of
pull a
course.
Hogan, either to try and get it graded high or to get it to sign. You know,
Graded and ungraded. I mean, graded, unsigned. Yes. I'm talking about
remember,
the signed stuff.
remember, like, of course, modern cards are outselling vintage cards because shit, there's probably been more cards made by Panini in the last 3 months in the entire vintage era. So
You're absolutely
it's
right.
just
Absolutely
numbers,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So
But I'm just talking from the numbers across the board of how many Vince McMahon autograph cards are out there, comparatively speaking to a Ric
very
Flair
few,
or Hogan.
very few.
Fractional.
Right. But the Hogan cards are not losing their value.
No, they're not. Of course
Because
not.
I posted the next day that one went for $5,000. And then
Yep.
after that, Breaker let me know that one sold for 7,500. Then I stopped. There was another one the next day that sold for 28. Then there was another one that sold for 3,500. And I wasn't just going to keep tweeting every day. I mean, people got the idea. It's like, yeah, this guy's on fire, all based on that. Maybe not all based, but the $132,000 sale.
Yeah.
Certainly.
My point being is that the Vince cards are not going to go down in price at
No,
all. I
no.
mean, they're not to they're not going to take a dump anytime soon. But they're just going to keep it going. I mean, I have Vince signed stuff here at the store that I'm just holding on to, as you know, like he's the only bastard out there that I'm ever going to try and capitalize when he passes away. But
Well, don't we have a rule
yeah,
on that? Aren't we supposed to not sell it when they die?
of course, and I follow that rule big
Or you'll
time.
break that rule for Vince, huh?
I'm breaking that rule for Vince. Absolutely, if anybody deserving, it's him.
Yeah, well, we see. Oh, well, if all of a sudden he has a run, then yeah, my card might go up for sale. We'll see.
Yep, we'll see.
I'd like to jump back here to touch on the national for just a second.
Sure.
I didn't make it to last year's national. I made it to Atlantic City 2 years ago, and I missed last year, and I got there this year. One difference I noticed between the Atlantic City show and this Cleveland show is there really was not as big of a representation of wrestling cards at this show as I saw in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
The wrestling card market was on fire, and I don't understand why we had such a low representation at the national, but yet have such a big boom in the product this past year.
Well, there's something on that too. Is I agree with you, Chuck, but there was representation of wrestling cards at the national this year. It was all mostly modern stuff.
Right.
So, you had Ryan and RBI crew, all those guys. They all had like multiple cases devoted to just wrestling cards, but there wasn't like the previous years, Chuck. There wasn't any, like, I couldn't find any blaster boxes. I mean, I was specifically went this year with one thing in mind for the store was I brought an empty luggage just to go and fill it with blaster boxes, and nobody had anything in quantity like that at all. Everybody brought in, 300 plus, 400 plus, 500 plus dollar boxes when I was looking for cheap blaster boxes that I could pack out for the store.
I got a theory on that because at the Sport Expo in Toronto, you see guys and you get the sense, maybe not in wrestling, but they use the show twice a year to dump stuff.
Yeah.
They have excess inventory. I didn't get that sense at this year's national. Of course, there was Chad's booth and Ryan's booth, and they had a lot broader product, but nobody was there across the board trying to get shit, like dump shit. And I spoke to material suppliers like binder guys and things like that, and there was no deals there. The national isn't a place for deals.
No.
And you remember when we went looking for Jennings? Jennings is a huge player, just like Ryan is, and they buy significant quantity of wrestling, but they didn't bring it, right?
Nope.
Just because they can only bring so much, and to get to the national, to be at that show is costly. You have to be at a certain level of business to get there. So there's a lot more wrestling people out there in North America, and I know this because I've been dealing with them for years, than is represented at the national. And unfortunately, Chuck, your experience proved that because when we went in Atlantic City, that was really the first time I'd seen wrestling of that quantity anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It was definitely a big significant year to year. It was different.
The one good thing that did come out of it, I did manage to find me some Wonderama test cards.
Yeah.
some of the Von Erich gaming cards.
That was the school for all of us. Those Von Erich.
One booth, that guy just blew me away. And those were two things in my collection that I didn't have, and I was actually able to add something to my collection. So I was pretty happy with that. And the panel itself, I thought everybody did great. The only thing I didn't like is where the camera was sitting, because if you watch mostly, you see the back of my bald head through most of the show.
Now, Tony, that was the Rex guy, wasn't it? The guy that we bought the Von Erichs from, wasn't he?
Yeah, I
I
traded two wax cards. That guy came back with a stack, and I felt like I could have come back with more, but I started to feel guilty.
now, was he the guy that was going on about Hogan being a football player, or was that someone else?
Yes, that was him. Same guy. Same guy.
Yeah. We'll save that story for another day, but he was quite a character, that guy. But
Yeah.
I think that all worked out well for all of us. We came away with the Von Erichs. He got his Rex.
Turnout for our panel this year than the year I was in Atlantic City. I don't know about last year, but in Atlantic City, I think most of the people we had sitting around listening to our panel were people who were just walking around and wanted a chair to sit in. So they sat there and listened to us. This year, I think people actually showed up to listen to us, and we had a nice turnout. Got to meet Matt Delacus out there. He took us to an awesome
that was fun.
Dinner was great.
He gave me this awesome Limitless card. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that so much. That was a big addition to my collection. And but yeah, it's nice. I got to meet more people. I was hoping to meet more of the Brotherhood. I met a few in Atlantic City. I met a few here, but I haven't got to meet everybody yet. And unfortunately, I don't think the next few years you're not going to be seeing me at the National. So if we run into each other, it's going to have to be somewhere other than the National. But I was really glad I went. Glad I got to meet everybody. Had a fantastic time with the panel. Place was great. The only negative was when I got home, Mr. COVID followed me home.
That's right. You're poorly after that.
But I'm back. But it was a great time, and three of us.
The hanging out, the getting to see each other. Obviously for the three of us, because so we can hang out, but just to see so many other people that you communicate with throughout the year, So for me, that's probably the biggest thing, is just the faces. And it's not one or two; it's dozens of guys that we've become friendly with over the last few years because of what we do here. And it's just great.
And one thing you forgot to mention, Paul, when we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was right next door to the stadium where they were having
SummerSlam.
That's right. We walked around and saw the banners.
Yeah, the posters outside. I got a lot of shots of the poster advertisements on the side of the stadium. That was neat to know that I was that close, and we were like a week early.
Yeah.
But
most people I tell, like when they ask, because I think tickets went on sale that weekend that we were at the National for the Monday Night Raw that was just here in Phoenix a few weeks back. And I completely forgot about it because we were all enjoying ourselves at the National. So I tell customers, "Oh, I forgot to pre-order because I was in Cleveland that weekend." "Oh, you went to SummerSlam?" No, the week before.
And then, of course, we ended up, I know the two of you probably wasn't excited about as I was, but I've always been a fan of that movie, A Christmas Story, and the house that it was filmed in is out in Cleveland. So since I was driving, the car navigated its way over to that house, and we took a tour of that and got to check out the museum.
I honestly think Tony and I were more excited seeing your excitement.
You get excited about that house.
You almost decked a kid on the. You remember the phone on the wall, that little kid too long.
And the whole time we're there, I'm taking pictures of it, and I'm sending it over to Scotty Schwartz like that, going, "Should we move in here?
Yeah.
We're in town. Why are you not home?"
Then kudos to Scotty, because later on that night, when we had our trade night, you invited him to come, and he came specifically just to come and say hi to Chuck, which was really nice.
That was amazing. Thank you for
that was very cool. When we met Lawler,
he brought Lawler with him. He brought Jerry Lawler with him.
It was just too busy for Jerry to walk through.
It was just such a long walk. They hadn't eaten that day. They wanted to go eat. They had to go back upstairs, back to where they were at, to go out the back door so they can go out and get something to eat. So they came all the way out of their way to come down. And when I told Scotty about Chucksters like that, he turns around, looks at Jerry, goes, "Jerry, you sit here. You watch Jerry. You take me over to your friend. I want to go meet him."
So, guys, you want to chat about some of our favorites of the year, favorite card releases and stuff? I'll get us rolling. What we'll do is we'll talk about, first of all, our favorite wide release, our big release, and then our favorite indie set. And I'll start. For the indie set of the year, I got to say, Tony, your Phoenix cards um, are right up there. You know, insofar as looks, this is the ongoing series that you started back in November.
Yeah.
They look great. They remind me of Pete's first ARW set. Another one that particularly caught my eye, and we didn't discuss it a lot in our monthlies, was the Dreamwave series. They had two releases in
Hmm.
2021. I particularly liked the look of those. Then they had a second set. Um, but you know, I would say I'd probably pick those as my favorite just because they did. And I think there was also one with the girls as well. So I thought those cards looked particularly good. So the Dreamwave series would be my choice for indie. And for wide release, I got to go with Immaculate again. Last year, Immaculate was the top set for me, and I know a lot of people pick Select because Select had so much going for it. But I did the entire, we did, you Chuck and I, the entire Immaculate set last year, and then we also did it again this year, although the last two are still sitting thanks to Canada Post at Chuck's place, so I can't get that final picture done. But I believe that those two sets are going to stand up over time as two of the greater releases ever made. I mean, notwithstanding what the cards look like, some of the relics in that, some of the on-card autographs were just phenomenal. And I think, you know, for all the things that Panini might have missed the boat on, they struck gold with Immaculate twice in my mind. So my set of the year once again was the 2024 Panini Immaculates.
You talking about immaculate or impeccable?
Immaculates. I like the Impeccables as well, but the Immaculates, the second one
Okay.
that came out, they were
We didn't
hard.
get it. We didn't get an immaculate this year.
Yeah, we did. We got a
Not
20.
on your list.
Oh, did I forget to put that on my list? Yeah, there was an Immaculate this year.
Okay,
Yeah,
because you got elite twice, so I'm assuming that's one of those supposed to be immaculate, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there was another impeccable. There's been two impeccables and two immaculates,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
both immaculates from 2023 and 2024 um, were home runs. I mean, knocked out of the park home runs. Probably amongst, you know, people say that the Panini era was the finest era ever, and for me, it's like that's debatable. It's a really subjective thing and what you're into. But I have a hard time thinking of a set better than immaculate. So it's certainly in that elite pantheon.
Okay.
What do you say,
What
Tony?
about go Chuckster? What do you think?
Well, Paul, you really surprised me when you picked your wide release favorite because I've actually seen about all of them and held them and looked at all of them before they made it to you. So I've actually been able to see everything. And my favorite wide release, and it's what I thought you were going to say, and you didn't even mention it. My favorite was Photogenic.
Photogenic, yeah, because they look so good.
Just an amazing looking set. I love the fact they did the full bleed, no border cards. The photography on it was amazing. And it was just a beautiful set. And when I have a little extra funds to spend, I'm definitely going to invest in that set for my collection. I wasn't able to buy a lot of the wide release stuff this year. I stuck mostly with indie stuff. But if I'm going to go for another wide release, it's going to be that Photogenic set because I just think it was just beyond my imagination as to what it would be. And I was really surprised you didn't even mention that one in your set. Now, when it comes to the indie sets, you stole my thunder because those were the exact same two sets I was going to talk about.
The Dreamwave?
The Dreamwave and the Phoenix. Because the Dreamwave seems to be the most popular choice, especially among the Brotherhood. That's been a lot of buzz in the Brotherhood on the Dreamwave. And from the pictures I've seen of them, I don't own any Dreamwaves, but from what I've seen, it does look like an amazing set. But the set that I really like this year, and I think next year it's even going to take off more, is the Phoenix Championship set that Tony and crew are putting out. I love the fact they put a kind of a still shot on the front, an action shot on the back. They have bio. They have like the wrestling profiles. These look at this stuff. I mean, this stuff is amazing. Look at the borders on that. I mean, these cards are just unbelievable, and I can't wait to see what the next several come out. There's only three. I think there's six out.
I've never actually seen the back.
Yeah. There's
So the backs contain the bios. They have
Now that you mentioned it,
each,
like I've only seen the front. You've only sent me the front, and I don't have the physical card yet, so that's cool.
in the backs. Each wrestler, the guy who
these
works for the
are yours,
promotion,
Paul. These are
Yeah, they're
yours.
probably coming in my next box, right?
Uh-huh.
they each have their own. Each wrestler has their own like logo.
Uh-huh. And I like the still shot on the front, the action shot on the back. I thought they were great. So that's going to be my pick. Although I think as a whole, for the indie collectors, I think the indie collectors as a whole are going to navigate more toward the Dreamwave. That's just my summation from what I can see. And I would be really lax if I didn't mention this again this year, because I've mentioned it almost every year. I cannot get over Pro Wrestling Junkie. It's probably some of my favorite cards in my collection. They're just, and he was going to quit after Series 3, and now he's just begun a Series 4. So
yeah, he's on his 4th retirement tour.
Yeah, he is.
Now, Chuck, I'm surprised, Chuck.
Out this nice stuff that he's got going on. So that's my shot. The photogenic, the Phoenix, and the Dreamwave, and the PWJ. There's my sets that because I've done more indie this year than I have the wide release, because I just can't afford the big Panini stuff this year. I just wasn't able to afford it, and I didn't want to build sets one at a time like I did the previous years. When I buy something, I like to have the whole set put together, and cards are so expensive and hard to find anymore that if you found the whole set put together, I think you'd never be able to afford it. And but luckily I've been able to see it all. It's passed through my hands before it made it to Paul, so I've actually got to at least hold it and look at it and see what it's like.
Well, Chuck, you got too many sets on that list, man. I'm putting a gun to your head. Pick one wide release, pick one indie.
Well, hang on, Chuck. I'm surprised that you didn't pick one set, which is I thought would be your favorite, would be the Pooper Stars of Wrestling.
Yeah, but it wasn't. If I'm going to pick one wide release, it's photogenic. If I've got to pick a indie set of the year, I guess I would have to go with Dreamwave, just to help out the Brotherhood a little bit, But what can I say?
What do you say, boss?
Just kind of in my blood. So.
Tony, what do you think?
For me, I really like the photogenic for the reasons that Chuckster said. I love the full bleed on it. The imaging on it is amazing. But I also like simplicity. And for me, I like the Elite set. I really like that Elite set. I got a 5,000 count box full of single snets. So I built some sets out of that. And I don't know. I just like it. I also like Chronicles. I like having the best of and having different things going through. I was just talking to Nick yesterday when he came in, and I said, I don't know why people, hate these season ticket type cards. Just like that. I think it's kind of cool.
I thought they were cool as well.
But I'm a toss up between the Elite for me and photogenic. But if again, gun to my head, I'm probably going to lean towards photogenic just for all the reasons that Chuckster mentioned. I think the imaging is amazing. There's just something about that set. It reminds me a little bit of like Top Stadium Club sometimes, because it's just, again, full bleed. It's just, Panini's done something right when it comes to their releases. They've always, for the most part, gotten amazing images to use for their cards in every release. There's always a 1 or 2 or 3 cards in the set going, holy crap, I can't believe you put this on a card. This is an amazing set. The Rhea Ripley, multiple pictures of her on one of those sets like that. Just, especially when you have the parallels, which, some of them they match so well with certain stars, like there's a Stone Cold one with what they call it, what is that? The broken glass, the glass one, shattered glass, it just perfect for Stone Cold, it's just, it pops really well. But I'm going to lean towards photogenic for me. It's such a great looking card.
Definitely set. From a photography point of view,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nicely looking shots that we've seen in.
Absolutely. I mean, and for someone who doesn't like action shots, even the action shots they use for some of those cards come out, they just pop nice. They just come out really nice.
Yeah. Favorite wrestler of the year?
My indie set. God, I don't have it for indie set. Dreamwave is awesome. It's like that. I mean, I'm not going to be biased and say the Phoenix one, because I think they're beautifully designed. The designer did a great job on those like that.
He was talented, that guy.
I like this the small little store in Phoenix, Arizona that puts out a card set. I like them. I
The
like
monthly, yeah. The
yeah.
in-store appearances. That's turning into like its own little living set.
Well, it is a living set, and then people now are starting to gravitate towards the signature series now. So the Molina card that just came out for the in-store appearance last Sunday is the last of 2024 red edition.
Right.
Coming out in January, we have two in-store appearances. It'll be cards number 7 and 8 in the set. So the numbering sequence continues, but the coloring scheme changes. It'll all be blue now instead of red. So that way, when you go and look at a card, you can go, "Oh, that came from 2024. That came from 2025," kind of thing.
Nice.
But so I kind of like. I'm going to be biased in that, I guess, and say the store when I love it, but it's hard to kind of, go over Dreamwave and PWJ. I think they're really good too. I love those
There's
card
so many.
designs.
There was a bunch of them. Like I went through them this morning, and there was a lot of indie stuff, and
Yeah,
like I really like Tony's cards. I shouldn't say that, but they're great, a great designer. But the
I
Dream
just
the
I just sent
Dreamwave,
the next three. I just sent the next three to the printer yesterday.
nice. Ready to talk about our favorite performers of the year? This is always my last year. Chuck and I picked the exact same two people without even knowing it. We've already picked Dreamwave. So let's see if this happens again this year.
I say we go 1, 2, 3. You both say your name right away.
So Chuck, what we want is your runner-up and then your favorite performer wrestler of the year.
My runner-up favorite, and sadly the shine is starting to fade, but it was Joe Hendry. He came in.
A lot.
He just took his 15 minutes of fame and ran with it, and he was so entertaining. And while he's still kind of in the mix, he's just kind of his shine is kind of fading a little now. But I still put him as my runner-up because I just enjoyed what he did. It was fun. He was entertaining. He made me, whatever I was doing when he come on the screen, if I was on the phone, I put it down. If I was playing on my tablet, I put it down. I just watched him because he was that entertaining. My wrestler of the year, my favorite, and there is no doubt, it's just number one. He was my number 2 choice last year. He moved up to number 1. And if he stays on the run he's on, he's probably going to be number 1 again for me next year. And that's Gunther. He is just a powerhouse, and he is so good. He's believable. He's just a monster in the ring. And I mean, he just, I don't know. He kind of reminds me of a modern day Brock Lesnar to some extent. I just like him, and they're doing right by him, and they're having the titles on him, and they're, I don't know. He's just becoming an unbeatable monster heel right now. And I love it. I just think he's great.
80% of his time in WWE right now is he's been a champion.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, he was number 2 on my list last year. He moved up to number 1 this year.
What about you, Paul?
Want me to go next?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so my number 2 is probably the most entertaining performer of the year for me, even though I'm not going to put her as number 1. And when Chelsea Green comes out to the ring, I'm mesmerized. I watch every single move she makes, every hand gesture, every eyebrow raise. And this was before she won the title last weekend. She's must see for me. So my number 2 is Chelsea Green. Just so entertaining and so good with the camera. And I'm glad that they put a title on her because she deserves it. Matt unfortunately didn't win last night against Mick Foley.
Yeah, but he's still claiming to be we are the US. Yeah, he's half the champion.
Now, Chuck, for me, number 1 is going to be between 2 guys, Gunther or Cody Rhodes, and I have to pick one. And I think I'm going to pick Cody because he finished the story. He won the Royal Rumble. He beat Gunther in Saudi Arabia. But from what I understand behind the scenes, he's taken on that mantle of what John Cena used to do. He's been fantastic with the kids. He's just been a fantastic ambassador. He's not my favorite wrestler, never has been. I mean, I loved his old man, don't get me wrong. And I've never had a problem with Cody Rhodes, but just what he's managed to accomplish in this last year for the business. Like you remember when they rejigged the main event and the internet went mad that they had to change everything. And that was Cody Rhodes. That was all of us saying, no. We want Roman versus Cody, not Roman versus Rock. And I, in all my years, have never, ever seen a wrestler get that much groundswell support in such a short period of time. So yeah, runner-up for me, Chelsea Green, wrestler of the year, Cody Rhodes.
Interesting.
Good choice.
Yeah. Cool. For me, let's see. Well, mine are two guys that both had a rivalry that was amazing the entire year for me. And one of them I actually can't believe I'm going to say because I'm not a fan of him. For my runner-up is CM Punk.
Nice.
Only because I really enjoy the work he's doing right now. He seems to be enjoying himself. He seems to be he's putting on banger matches right now. His trilogy with Drew McIntyre was off the charts, man. Every match that they had, the first one, great. Second one, even better. Last one, unbelievable. And that damn thing opened the pay-per-view too. It was just an amazing feud. We all wanted Punk and Seth. That's what we're kind of looking at. And that's going to be happening now, it looks like. But it's just amazing to me what he's done. And from a personal standpoint, again, not a fan. But from a performance standpoint, I thought he did an amazing job this year. So he's my number two. But my
Most
number
interesting
one,
thing about that feud, before you give us your number one, is the fact that they had the hottest feud going in wrestling before they even had a match.
correct.
That's how good it was.
Yes, and that's why at least my number one. My number one is Drew. And
A lot of people like Drew.
I have been professing Drew since mid last year, late last year. Like, my God, this guy's on a run. This the moment he took his social media and used it as a great way to troll Punk, where oh, I prayed for this to happen. I wanted this to happen. And then he came on social media working out in the gym one day, and it's like, hey, today we're working on triceps.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it was just, he took it to a whole nother levels like that. And I've loved everything that he's done. And he's had an amazing year in his career. I think he's at the top of his career he could possibly be right now. It's just amazing to me that what he's done. Told amazing stories in the ring, told amazing stories online, has taken advantage of social media to ways that I think a performer should be taking social media instead of just repeating other stuff that we see on TV, just taking it to a whole new level. And I've really enjoyed it. And that rivalry is great. I'm sad to see it over, to be honest with you.
That speaks to wrestling, how great it is nowadays that you can take a Gunther, a Cody Rhodes, and a Drew McIntyre and be absolutely right on all three of them.
Yeah.
Any one of those guys are headline main event guys. They're just great. My buddy Steve loves Drew. He'd probably pick him as his performer of the year.
And I think it's just a testament to the quality of the roster that WWE has right now. You notice that none of us talked about any other promotion when it came to that, when we're picking people right now. I mean, yes, obviously Joe Hendry is more TNA, but he's an NXT kind of thing. There's some crossover there, but all of our top picks are always in WWE right now. I mean, last year I think you took MJF, right? Yeah. So, and worthy of that, obviously too. But it shows you that the quality of talent that's on the WWE roster right now is second to none.
That's great.
And they have so many names that they're all in title contention type names that could be worked into a main event program at any given time, and all of it's believable.
Very deep.
Yep.
All right, I guess we should wrap things up, or else we'll go till next Christmas.
Yep.
I had two things to look forward to in 2025, and our greetings to other collectors. Maybe we could put that into one, a final sort of from each of us, things that you're excited about for the new year, and any other things you wanted to say to the collectors out there, and then we'll go drink some eggnog.
Yeah, kick us off, Paul.
I'm looking forward to Topps coming back in. Not so much that I dread Panini going. It was a fantastic run, but we knew the run was going to come to the end. So let's see. I'm just excited for what might happen next. We don't know. There's a lot of conjecture. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad. We don't know. Let's just enjoy it and do the best we can as collectors. Buy what you can afford and just do the best with it. And I'd like to do my annual shout out to everyone that we interact with on a daily basis, all the guys that are out there creating content and are on Twitter and all these other. I'm active mostly on Twitter, but of course I know there's loads of guys on Facebook and Instagram and lots of other places. To everybody that just takes the time to do this on a computer to sort of help further the message about wrestling trading cards. We've done a lot of it, obviously, and we'll continue to do so. But I just want to give a shout out to all those guys, all of us that enjoy this hobby. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and to everyone a safe and prosperous 2025.
Going on with you, Chuckster?
Well, what am I looking most forward to? When Topps takes over, I'm really hoping they reinstate the living set. That was a big thing for me back before they folded. I'll probably get back into that if that comes around. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Again, like everybody else, I just want to wish a very, very good New Year to everybody, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, including my friends in the Brotherhood, who have just been so good to me this year. And in response to that, there may be a very late little Christmas gift heading your way shortly after Christmas. I won't go any further with that, but
don't ruin it, Chuckster. Don't ruin it.
Gonna ruin it. Just want everybody to know there might be a little surprise heading your way. And
as long as you don't live in Canada, check your mail.
Yeah. Don't remind me.
So, and I want to thank everybody for just being there and helping me out. And whenever I need some help with images or checklists, you guys have been there on top. So I thank you all a lot. And just everybody follow me. I've actually opened up a Blue Sky account also just recently. I'm not under Chuckster on Blue Sky though. I'm under Tedrick1, TEDRICK #1. Long story.
What? I was going to ask the story about that, but we'll save it for another time.
Yeah. Actually, every form of Chuckster that I put in to create an account, it told me it was already taken.
How dare somebody else out there take the Chuckster name?
And so every time I put something in and I put a different number at the end, it was taken. So Tedrick is a combination of my one favorite feline nephew. His name is Teddy. So it comes from his name. I had to have a little shout out to him too. So I became Tedrick1. And so if you're on Blue Sky, it's a free also. It's a lot like X is, with a lot less drama so far because there's not many people on there. Hit me up, join me there, check me out on X as Chuckster, and give me follows because I've lost a lot of followers in the last several months. I've lost over 100 followers on X. So, if you're out there and want to follow and hit me up on wrestling card info, hit me up and follow me. But again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody. See ya.
Yeah, same with me. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a crazy year in the sense that from a business standpoint, everything has revolved around the store. And part of that has caused, for me, I don't communicate as much as I used to because I'm spending all my time just doing this. Even WTC as a whole has taken a back seat. And while I always have every intention of doing more updates or, getting Nick involved and stuff like that, it's just, it never comes to play yet. And I got to do better than that. In 2025, I'm going to definitely do better than that, where I have to, at least if I can carve out an hour a week just to do it, then I'll do it. I mean, I have a whole brand new laptop sitting right here just to help try to make things easier for myself. And it still hasn't done anything for me. But, for me, as far as Topps goes, yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, I don't really care who has a license. Why don't you keep putting out wrestling cards? Just put out wrestling cards, and we're all going to collect them no matter what. Anyways, indie cards are coming all the time. I mean, we talk about all the releases that Panini put out in a year, and then and the opposite be with Upper Deck and AEW, but nothing compares what that got put out for indie all year. I mean, there was probably stuff coming out every single week from somewhere on this planet. Someone's putting out a card set, whether it be $50 for 10 cards or whatever it is. There's plenty of it coming out, man. There's no shortage for wrestling cards. There's no shortage of prospecting people from independent, supports local independents all throughout 2025. You never know who the next big thing is going to be. And And for me, for 2025 and this past year and going forward, I'm thankful for you two guys. You two guys keep me grounded in this hobby more than anybody else on this planet. Nick's in that category as well too. I got to give big shout outs to Nick too. It's like that. He's put up with so much in the store, but so much for the hobby itself. Probably couldn't do what we do without guys like Nick. I mean, and the entire Brotherhood group. I mean, those guys from the independent, even from mainstream, they have opinions and conversations and talk about mainstream stuff too. But their bread and butter of knowledge really comes to the independent stuff. Without them, we wouldn't have half the information we have, probably
90% wouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, but you guys are the ones that keep me grounded. That I started this whole episode off today talking about that it's a tripod, and that's how I look at it between Chuckster, Paul, and myself. It's a tripod, man. At the end of the day, I've got Paul's back, I've got Chuckster's back, and I like to think that's the same.
Absolutely.
With all of us. And that's where, for me, it's where the buck stops, really, for us, because, we've devoted a lot of our lives, not just, the last year or since we started doing this podcasting stuff, but we're talking the majority of our lives.
A lot of decades.
Yeah, have been revolving around wrestling cards. I don't care that my time started, in the mid 80s of doing wrestling cards. I still know stuff about today too. So, the notion that just because we're old and we've been doing this a long time, that we've lost touch with reality, that what's going on, modern versus vintage. Yeah, you're right. Maybe I know more about what but I know stuff about wrestling cards.
All of it
as a whole.
Yeah.
From production to distribution to the collectability of it all. So this is, to me, the faces on this screen right now, to me, is the Holy Trinity. It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost right here. And no one's going to ever change my mind otherwise. That even if there wasn't wrestling cards, these are two guys that I would still be friends with. Always.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I wish everybody a very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm looking forward to 2025, man. It's going to be fun.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all.